Grazie Alessandro, grazie Steve. Allora, se vuoi abbiamo ancora tempo per rispondere a qualche domanda dal pubblico. Ok, allora, mentre si prenotano la prima e la 7, già ce l'ho prenotata, poi piano piano alzate la mano. Intanto io ne approfitto, volevo dare un regalo personale a Steve, così si riposa anche un attimo, solo che ha parlato finora. Un libro scritto dalla direttrice della biblioteca che racconta la storia in italiano e in inglese di questa biblioteca. Il mio regalo personale per la pazienza e la simpatia. E la tessera di lettera 22, gliel'ho fatta personalmente, visto che c'è. È un'associazione italiana, ma aperti anche con grande gioia a chi si occupa di comunicazione nel mondo. Grazie Steve.
Trump, as you pointed out, you talked about the little guy and defending the little guy and economic populism. And Trump ran on that and promised to improve health care for everyone, defend the little guy. But the economic policy of the tax cut was heavily skewed toward the wealthy, and he's arguably done a lot of things to make it easier for what you call the elites of Davos. Do you feel he's lived up to his promise of economic populism for the little guy, or gone against that?
It's a great question. It's a great question. But remember, we won as a coalition. I reached out immediately to the Republican establishment, the RNC, to come on board in mid-August when we were down by 12 points, 14 points. We could not have won without the Republican establishment. And as any Faustian bargain that you end up making, there's payments for that. As you've seen in the press the last couple of days, we had a deal on health care that I didn't think was great, but was livable. And John McCain, whose Trump's endorsement allowed him to get back to the United States Senate, because without his endorsement, McCain would have been beaten in Arizona. McCain, after running on repealing and replacing Obamacare and promising us all the way through he was going to vote for it, came back and at 2 o'clock in the morning shifted his vote and put the knife in Trump on a personal vendetta. And Obamacare was not repealed or replaced because of one vote in the United States Senate. On the taxes, I argued in the Oval Office for a 44% tax on every individual that made more than $5 million for the hedge funds in Silicon Valley and Hollywood. That would have broken the back of the Democratic Party. And Bernie and them would have nothing to run on. And it was shot down by two progressive Democrats that are in the Trump administration. Gary Cohn and Steve Mnuchin. Gary Cohn, the National Economic Advisor, and Steve Mnuchin, the Secretary of Treasury, both progressive Democrats. The corporate taxes were the biggest part of it and had to be done, and that's populist because it makes you competitive with China and Germany and starts to bring manufacturing jobs back to the heart of the country. So it's just like how you're trying to govern here. It's not perfect, but it's a process. And I think he's having more wins than defeats, and I think he's getting more populist and more economic nationalist every day he goes on.
Policy. Volevo sapere se quello che lei ha definito come popolo, come cittadini, è sicuro che sia una massa uniforme o è possibile che si muove per interessi soggettivi molto diversi tra loro? È una domanda telegrafica, se secondo lei, come disse un famoso politico italiano, la libertà dell'Occidente si difende sotto le mura di Gerusalemme, cioè difendendo Israele e Gerusalemme. Grazie.
I think it's the reason that we picked the sequence we picked when we went to Riyadh, Jerusalem, and to Rome. I mean, it's Athens, Jerusalem, Rome, London, Washington. That's the core of the Judeo-Christian West, and Jerusalem is an absolute central part of that. It's a central part of our traditions, a central part of our laws, it's a central part of our customs and traditions. So yes, if the question is the defense of the Judeo-Christian West on the walls of Jerusalem, I think absolutely. And I think that goes back for millennia, and it'll go forward to the millennia in the future. Of your point, is it subjective? All I know is what I see, and I know working class people and middle class people. Economic nationalism is what binds people together. It doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity, your color, your gender, your sexual preference. It matters that you're a citizen of that country, whether that country's Italy or the United States of America. It's the reason they're so shocked in the United States that now Trump's approval ratings among Hispanics are starting to rise. And the reason is wages are starting to rise since Trump's put in these tough measures against mass illegal immigration. African American unemployment, historic all-time low. Hispanic, 40-year low. Wages are starting to rise. So from that perspective, the economic determinism, I see the economic results, and I think you're now starting to see the political results.
Hi, Mr. Bannon. It's Eric Reguly of the Globe and Mail of Canada newspaper. You're spending a lot of time in Europe. You're talking to populist leaders probably all the time. My question is, how intently are these populist leaders in Europe listening to you, in the sense that what do you know that they don't know already? How are you helping them?
Well, that's a good, it's a great question. When Marine Le Pen asked me to come and speak last year at the Front National annual conference, I said, what do you need me to come over? I'm an American. What could I talk about? She said, just tell us we're not alone. I have not talked to one populist, nationalist, political figure in Europe that didn't know 100 times more than I did about how to run local elections, national elections, how to win office. I'm not a professional political operative. I volunteered for Trump's. I had never been in a campaign office in my life before I walked in and took over Trump's campaign. Not even for a city councilman. And today, I never took a penny from Trump, and I've never taken a penny from any political figure I've ever talked to. So none of my discussions have ever been what they have to do nationally or locally, because they understand that 100 times better than I do. I just give them a chance to know that they talk to the devil.
Allora posso aggiungere, sono Philip Zahn della tedesca, Svizzera tedesca. La domanda è, allora, se lei fa un bilancio del suo soggiorno europeo, a che punto siamo? Perché lei è stato celebrato come quello che doveva mettere insieme un'unione tra la destra europea. Per esempio, adesso Matteo Salvini, in un'intervista a un mio collega svizzero, ha detto sulla domanda che pensa di Steve Bannon, ha detto interessante, ma lui è americano, noi siamo europei. Non c'è magari questo pericolo che il suo progetto si arena perché persone come Matteo Salvini stesso hanno già raggiunto un obiettivo, non hanno più bisogno di lei? Grazie.
Salvini never needed me. The politicians here don't need me. They are fully capable of winning elections on their own. In fact, the reason the party of Davos that's headquartered in Brussels is so afraid has nothing to do with me. Because you have great rising stars like Salvini and Orban and Kurz and others throughout Europe. And you have a citizenry that's tired of going on bended knee to Brussels. That's what their fear is, because the populist, nationalist sovereignty movement has great politicians, a great message, and now it has traction. And that's why it's on the cusp, maybe, if the momentum keeps, through Spain and other nations, a stunning victory in May.
Ok, Steve, facciamo un'ultima domanda da un non giornalista, CNR, Centro Nazionale di Ricerche, italiano. Ecco.
Allora, Antonio Scala, Data Scientist, Consiglio Nazionale Ricerche. Lei ha parlato della concentrazione del denaro, della ricchezza e proponeva qualcosa al riguardo. Poi ha parlato anche dell'importanza dei social media, per esempio nelle ultime elezioni, sia in Italia sia in Brasile. Ecco, cosa ne pensa della concentrazione di dati? Qual è la vostra posizione rispetto al possesso di dati, chi li deve avere e come si fa ad avere una democrazia se tutti i partiti non hanno lo stesso accesso alle informazioni su cosa pensano i cittadini, cosa che si può fare con i social media?
There's two things on data I think that we have to understand. The first, and I have argued this for a couple of years, Facebook and Google and these big distribution methodologies have to be treated as public utilities and they have to be regulated. All the data has to be dropped down into a public trust, and you as an individual generator of that data have to opt into the system. Now, you will have price discovery on how you pay for Facebook and pay for Google because they will no longer be free. But as a generator of that intellectual property, you will be the owner and you will decide how it's used and how it's monetized. And you will be the recipient of that transaction. But every bit as important is Huawei. Huawei is an arm of the People's Liberation Army of China. Let me repeat that. It's not associated with, it's not a partner with, it doesn't know them. It is a branch of the People's Liberation Army of China. 5G is not a linear progression from 4G. 5G is to the 10th order of magnitude different than 4G. It is the basis of all quantum computing and the basis of all future technological development. In the 5G system, data is like plutonium, and it can and it will be weaponized. Every telecommunications company that uses Huawei as a backbone, every system like in Turkey that has Huawei run its telecom system, is essentially having the People's Liberation of China run your telecom. Don't believe me. This comes from 2 Chinese colonels in the People's Liberation Army. This book was published in 1999. It's called Unrestricted Warfare. It says there's 3 types of warfare: information, economic, and kinetic. We can never fight the West with kinetic arms, but we can overwhelm and eventually destroy the West with information technology and economic war. And Huawei is a Trojan horse in the West to get your data and to eventually weaponize it. And the single most important event in the economic war of the West against China, which China has been at economic war with us for 25 years, was the arrest in Canada of the chief financial officer of Huawei. Canada.
In Canada.
The least aggressive nation on earth. The nicest people on earth. And do not believe for a second that it was because of sanctions against Iran. She's the key that picks the lock. And I look forward to the day she's extradited to the United States and stands trial. I hope one of the politicians that are with Xi the next couple of days asking a question about Huawei.
Allora Steve, grazie per queste 2 ore.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Abbiamo